Hello, Scorpio. This is Camille here from Millennial Tarot with your September 2018 reading. Before we get into it, I just wanted to give a brief shout out. I don't know if it's a shout out really. Still doing my $5 readings up until the end of August, so I believe that is August 31st. So if you need some personal insights into your situation, if this resonates, or especially if it does not resonate, that is an invitation to kind of take advantage of that. After August 31st, they do go up to just $10. But let's get into it. Let's see what the energies are for my Scorpio, September 2018. One more time. Three cards spread, per usual. Past, present, and future. So what we have coming up for you in the recent past are setting off the energies of this reading with the Knight of Swords. And then we have a beautiful card of expansion here. This is the Three of Wands representing, the energies of September. And then we move here into the Chariot card. So there's a lot of movement coming in. Literally all three cards represent movement to me. So September is certainly going to be a month of change and a month of kind of rehauling and moving in a different direction. And doing so, fairly quickly. Now to talk about the Knight of Swords, the Knight of Swords is seen rushing into something with information, with the authority of his logic, of thinking, swords always representing how we are thinking about something, the machinations of our brain, very cerebral cards. But then if you take a look closer, we have the horse saying, you're kind of going too fast. So with the swords in his hand, what came to me was that, where did you jump to a conclusion? Where did you kind of assume something? Where did, someone tell you a little snippet of something and then you kind of took it too far and blew it out of proportion? Or where did someone else kind of do this to you? These readings are both what's happening for you and what's happening, with people around you. How are they acting with you? So, the Knight of Swords is a card of speed. He's the fastest moving knight, though he is not a wand, which is the fastest moving suit in general. But it's kind of moving in way too fast, to the point where, if you use the horse as a metaphor for what are you riding on, the momentum, the energies of life, you're doing it a little bit too quickly. And with the sword in your hand, you could be doing it with wrong information. You could be blowing something out of proportion. Someone could be blowing something else out of proportion. You could be assuming something, or you could have the wrong information or not complete information. So the swords card really coming in to say, especially because Mercury was in retrograde for half of August and a little bit of September, no, just half of August, that, what you were seeing, what you saw, what you heard, what you heard communicated to you, what you found out, you may not have the full story yet. So, the big three things that people always ask about here, and that, these are general readings, but I'd like to touch on, the three big things, which is always job, money, and relationships, and maybe the fourth runner-up being, health and body and all that stuff. So, as it has to do with that, you may have something in your job where you think you heard something, or you think you heard something about you, or you heard about the availability of a position, and you think you know how it's going to go, but you kind of don't. So the Knight of Swords is really coming in this reading to kind of say, you don't know everything yet. And you don't know how it's going to work out. You don't know how people are looking at you. You don't know how you're being perceived. You don't have the full picture. If you're painting a bad doom and gloom thing about yourself, about your worth in a job, or your worth in a relationship, or your worth to money, and you're like, I'm poor, I'm never going to do this, I'm unattractive, I'm never going to have that, I'm not skilled enough, I'm never going to go there, know that that's not the full story. And know that anything that you've been running up against in any of those areas where you feel confused, you feel like the communication isn't free-flowing, where people have stopped talking randomly, where people have said random things, or not random things, just things a little bit out of character, just kind of sit with it, because the Knight of Swords sees you kind of taking it and moving forth with it and not having the complete information, not having the full story. Now, the full story will present itself to you in September. If something happened, something went down the wrong way, if someone did not come at you correct or whatever, because everything was funky, okay, because so many things were in retrograde and we had so many eclipses, do know that you get your clarity here. And that's the theme for most of the signs, is that, September is finally bringing that rest, that pause, and that clarity. For others of you, I get that's the main thing, but for some Scorpios, it could be you did find something out and that Mercury retrograde revealed something to you, or something was revealed something to you, and it's information that you really needed to hear and that you really needed to know, so that now you can move forward into this new phase. You can move forward into this new phase of your life knowing what you know, and from the people that you know it from. So then that moves and that parlays nicely into this place of beginning again. The Three of Wands representing, horizons untouched, journeys yet to be gone on, but kind of standing there and seeing the world as your oyster, seeing so many options, kind of out there in front of you. The Three of Wands is also the card of expansion, and it reminds me a lot of Jupiter in that way, where it's kind of like everything you touch this month has the potential to expand into something greater, has the potential to expand into something, a new journey, a new phase of life. Here with the Knight of Swords, where it's kind of cloudy, where you kind of have these elements of confusion, of rush, of not knowing the full story, of not having the full picture, then we see here a more stable person, a more serene type of landscape, a more serenity and harmonious kind of September for you. So where summer or August could have just seen you going back and forth with people, or going back and forth within yourself. Of course, swords are how we think, so it could be something that's just internal to you, and kind of not landing on an answer, not landing on a yes, not landing on a no, not even landing on a maybe, just not landing, and forever in motion, forever in flight. The Three of Wands is then grounding you. But it's not grounding you to say, okay, this is where I am, now what? The Three of Wands kind of inspires you with this optimism, with this knowingness that now that you have the full story, now that you have the information that Mercury retrograde or whatever retrograde was here to teach you, you can move forth. And I see a lot of Scorpios are moving forth with a lot of optimism and moving forth with a lot of joy, because something grand is on the horizon. And we pair that up. Wands are also fast-moving cards. Fast-moving suit. They always have to do with mobility. So this could be you hear about a news. The Knight of Swords also brings us information. So you could be hearing about a move. You could be hearing about, someone who you want to date who is a Wands person, Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries, those fire signs. You could be hearing about a new job. You could be hearing about a financial opportunity or house. So this is also the Three of Wands paired with the Knight of Swords to say, the information that you are hearing is clearing something up so that you can then move forward. And then you move forward in this Chariot way. So here again, another card of movement, and Chariot being major arcana Cancer. So think back to what was happening to you at the end of June and the first half of July. It could have planted the seeds for where you are now, or what has to be left behind, or what is going to start afresh new. But the Chariot is, again, another card of movement. And it's more harmonious movement. It's more heart-based movement. So while we had here movement based on information, based on intellect, based on, I don't want to say ego, but based on, a detachment from emotion, here we have a movement that's more heart-led, that's more mindful, that's led more by spirit, that's led more by emotions. So it's really also that the Three of Wands is representing a fresh start, a sigh of relief, a feeling emotionally better, a feeling okay. Should the Knight of Swords and retrograde time or summer in general threw you into this frenzy, where you don't know what's true, you don't know what's not true, you don't know where to go, so you're just going to go, so you're not staying the same. You guys are all about regeneration and rebirth and always trying to get to the bottom of things. But, that's a murky type of journey to always be on, and you can feel stuck and confused a lot. The Three of Wands is then ending that confusion, is allowing you to come up for air, and then the Chariot is then taking movement, the Knight of Swords movement, and moving in a more graceful, harmonious way. For a love relationship, it could mean that a Cancer is on the way, someone who imbues those Cancerian archetypes, which is something that you would be interested in as a fellow water sign, but it could also Cancer aside, someone who is just more the nurturing, someone who is more into their feminine side, someone who's more into family and very protective over the people around them and the emotions of the people around them. So it could be that. If it has to do with a job, moving into a place of a more Cancerian job, you think of Cancer ruling that fourth house of family, of roots, of ancestry, and moving into a place in your life that's more home-oriented or moving into a home. So that's a general thing. But to get back to my more introspective stuff, the Chariot still does ask you to pull together some diametrically opposed energies and forces where, we've talked about this before, and maybe we haven't, but this one Sphinx wants to go that way, and the other one wants to go the other way, left and right. And the only way that we can move forward is to get those two energies moving together in unison. Because if they're going like this, then the Chariot rather topples over and you don't go anywhere. So you're very interested in getting away from something or getting to something. And the way that you do that is not by pretending like you have all the answers, and not by pretending like you have the full story or you know how it's going to go. It's rather letting yourself be led more mindfully. In the Cancer, being a water receptive card, it behooves me to say that this could be something that's taken up in the realms of meditation, of synchronicities, and listening for the messages that you're being given. Whereas the Knight of Swords kind of blocks out from that more heart-centered place, from that more spirit-centered place, and assumes that it knows everything. The Cancer card, the Chariot card, is then making more mindful movements based on the guidance of the universe, based on the guidance of your own intuition. So really success and a restart and a refresh is coming to you this month, but there's going to have to be, the Sphinxes could represent leading with the brain and leading with your heart, and then trying to cajole them into one direction. So the story here for you, Scorpio, is that you are moving, but you need to choose how you're going to move about this world. Are you going to move into your desire, or move away from what you don't like, from what you don't desire, in a way where you're rushing, in a way where you're kind of anxious? Swords always rule the nervous system, how we're thinking. So you could be anxious or nervous energy about it. You could be rushing into it and not paying attention to details, or just rushing and missing your life. Or are you going to move into it from this more relaxed, more harmonious, heart-centered place where you know that there's a world of options, when you know that whatever you touch will expand, so you might as well touch it with grace and touch it with heart and with, mindfulness is coming up a lot. Or are you going to move to your dreams in the Chariot way, which is a more heart-centered place? You've got what you needed to learn here in Mercury retrograde. You've got the information. You have the facts. You might not have the full story yet, but that is coming in, and that is allowing you to then move into this Cancer place, this Chariot place, that then will move you to your desired outcome. But really trying to make moves in a way, which I think we've talked about this over and over again, Scorpio, so this is a continuing theme for you, that when you take action from a more guided place, that is when you get to where you want quicker. I know that the Knight of Swords is tempting. It's tempting to think that we have it all under control, or that it's all under our purview. But, the Three of Wands and the Chariot card coming in to remind you that you can take a slower pace and let the universe guide you, or let intuition guide you, and not always try to lead with your mind. So really kind of taking a break from overthinking, from analysis paralysis, from nervous, anxious energy, and moving into a more healing place of the Cancer card, of a healing balm, and of moving in a way that is more mindful and heart-centered. And that is when you get your desired outcome. And just to speak briefly, because it keeps staring at me, this Three of Wands really does say that the universe is opening up a myriad of possibilities for you this month. So it's not just one thing. It doesn't have to be one thing. It doesn't have to be two things. It could be many things that are starting over for you and that are expanding for you. But they will come to your conscious awareness when you imbue this more Cancerian heart-led place, instead of being distracted and move quickly and being impatient and being anxious with this Knight of Swords place. So that is the story for you, Scorpio. If you need anything more for your personal situation, of course, you can hit me up below. I will leave my email, just $5 until the end of August. But until then, I will see you in October as we creep closer and closer into Scorpio season. But until then, I hope that this video finds you well, and take care.